I think we're recording. I hope we are. Hey, good to see you. Welcome back. Um, Thoughts for the day. You ready for a thought for the day? Here's one. Here's one. Um, every comb that a bald person holds is a comb that they will never part with. Here's another one. You ready for this one? Scabs are a vampire's potato chips. It is gross, isn't it? And less disgusting. I think it's funny though. Noodles are pieces of slimy bread yarn. Yeah, yeah, okay. Anyways, there's some thoughts for the day. Um, Good to see you. SpongeBob says welcome back, among others. So you're going to take notes for the first 20 minutes of class. I just recommend you take the notes in your book. That way you always have them with you. We are recording. Good. I want to show you where the Canvas page for this class, and you'll have access to it in perpetuity, as they say. So if you go to modules, we have the daily class activity. So Tuesday's PowerPoint is here. Today's PowerPoint is here. We're going to take some grammar notes, and the grammar guide that I refer to is here underneath today's PowerPoint. What was it? Tuesday, I took an audio, voice memo of the lesson that I gave regarding reading instruction. That appears here. The screencast that I make today will appear down here once I'm able to load it to YouTube. So days ahead, they look like this. Ooh, I need to update this one. Today should say grammar practice. Next Tuesday should say Khan Academy. My bad. Anyways, then we'll have general testing advice next Thursday, and then essay practice next Tuesday, and then just straight up reading and math practice for 3 days. And then February 8th, reminder, February 8th. This was on the form that your parents completed, but I didn't tell you about it Tuesday. We're doing a practice test. I want you to get your brain ready for this. A practice test at school Saturday morning. Yes, this is something you should come to because we play the way we practice, and you're going to take the test the way you practice taking the test. So it's good to practice on a Saturday morning. So you get up, you get used to the rhythms of life, as they call it. I get it that some of you are going to have some kind of event going on. Some kind of sports thing on that Saturday morning. But if you don't have some kind of event pre-planned, you need to come to this. You'll take the full test and you'll get a score at the end. And then we have our two test dates, the 14th and the 25th. All right, a bit of what I've observed regarding academic growth. Math growth, not always, but math growth often comes faster than reading growth. So keep that in mind. Come on, SAT, right? Oh, okay. Math growth often, but not always, comes faster than reading growth. To make gains in math, practice by filling in the gaps. Use that targeted practice on Khan Academy. Between the two language arts tests, the second one, section 2, I think it's a little easier to get growth to grow on that test because you just learn the grammar you need to know, fill in the gaps on your grammar, and you should be good to go. You can improve on the section 1 test by practicing. Like just take some time to test. Sit down for 65 minutes, complete the 5 passages, and then check your work at the end of the 65 minutes. Also, people who just enjoy reading tend to do better on section 1, the reading comprehension. Even if you don't enjoy reading, you can still read. It's a pretty important skill. People do it a lot these days. You should read, right? Just pick something nonfiction, fiction. I don't know. Just read a book. Also, and this is relevant, the higher your first score. So let's say you got like 1350 on your PSAT. The higher your first score, the harder it is to grow. So if you start with a 1350, you're gonna have to put in some time to get like 150 points of growth. You can do it. You just have to put in a fair amount of time. If you started out with a 900 on your PSAT, it's easier to grow by 150 points. There's economists call it a diminishing margin of returns. So someone who started out low puts in 10 hours is going to get more growth than someone who starts out high puts in 10 hours. So if you're starting out with a 1450, you should still want to grow. And you're probably a motivated person. You just know that you got to put in a little more time than others. And that's okay. This won't last forever. Just give it a month. Be obsessed with this test for a month. All right. Let's do some grammar practice. Learn some grammar skills or relearn some grammar skills. So there's some grammar skills that are irrelevant. The test writers don't care if you can tell the difference between a gerund and a participle. Doesn't matter to them. But there are other skills that they do care about. So someone created a document. It's this page, the SAT grammar guide. So you know this grammar guide is relevant to ACT grammar as well. So ACT and SAT grammar. Hard to read though. I recommend you read this on your own. But for our sakes for today, I'm going to already know some of it you may not know. I'm going to try to go quickly. So frequently confused words. I mean, you just need to know this. It's versus its. Most of you already know, where's my eraser? That drop the rag down the back. Can't get it back. All right. Most of you know that the it with the apostrophe is the same as it is, and the it's here is possessive, right? You know this. Something you should know is whenever there's an apostrophe for a contraction, that means a letter has been removed. Not for a possessive word, but for a contraction. That means a letter has been removed. So, I mean, we know this, the there versus there versus there. But just remind yourself, oh, a letter's been taken out of this there. What letter's been taken out? Yeah, okay, so that's the they are. Oh, that's the it is. Whose versus whose? One of these is possessive. Whose is this? Marker. Oh, it's my marker. So if you see this whose with the apostrophe, you know a letter has been removed. Which letter's been removed? Yes. So just say in your head who is, and that should be enough. Affect versus effect. You should write this down. Affect, action verb. A for action verb. Effect is a noun. And it means pretty much the same as result. What was the effect of the, what's a chemistry term? Reaction. What was the result of the reaction? So if you plug in the word result into the sentence and the word makes sense, then you probably need the effect version of this word. If you need a verb, you need the affect version. So I noticed, you tell me, which verb do I need, affect or effect? I noticed that Mike Tyson punched you in the face. How did that affect your day? Affect or effect? Say it. Affect, because it's a verb. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen because he may be old, but the guy still got it, right? Affect is an action. It's something that happened to you. Than versus then. I don't want to insult your intelligence as if you already know, but still, than comparison. Write it down. Than comparison, then time difference. First this, then that. She is taller than I am. Since we have some contractions, that reminds me of a good one. Hey, did you hear about the lady who walked into the hospital screaming, can't, don't, shouldn't? The doctor said, get her to the maternity ward. She's having contractions. Right? Anyways, All right, semicolons versus colons. The semicolon is the same as a period. There we go. Semicolon is the same as a period because it separates two complete sentences. So we have two complete sentences up there. This is a sentence, period. This is also a sentence, period. Semicolons separate complete sentences. Now, there are times technically when semicolons can separate items from a list. I've never seen that come up on the SAT. So just focus on semicolon, it's a period. And so the words on either side of the semicolon need to be a complete sentence. You need to know that. And if you know that, you're going to answer 2 of the questions on section 2 correctly. Sorry about that. This grammatical construction comes up sometimes. Like there maybe one question on the section 2 test per test. Whenever you have however, moreover, therefore, heretofore, consequently, you have words like that come in the middle of a sentence that separate 2 sentences. There's a way to punctuate it that's special. Let me go to the back of the room and show you. He asked her on a date. We have a period here, right? She refused. Poor guy. Anyways, we have these 2 sentences, right? Now, we could separate them with a semicolon, right? Because we have a complete thought here. He asked her on a date. She refused. Like 2 complete thoughts, 2 complete sentences, right? If we add a connecting word, however, we need to punctuate it a specific kind of way. So the semicolon comes before however, right? A comma needs to come after however. That's the trick. Same up there. Moreover, semicolon before, comma after. Therefore, semicolon before, comma after. Here's the thing. This comma semicolon pattern only applies when the word separates 2 complete sentences. All right, next. You need to know what a run-on sentence is and know when you have one. I'd say a good 10% of the questions in section 2 depend upon you knowing when a run-on sentence happens. So run-on sentence, that's when you have 2 complete sentences that are connected with a comma and a comma only. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that because you have a run-on. So this is incorrect. This is a sentence, comma, this is also a sentence. When you have 2 sentences combined with a comma, that's incorrect. Instead, you need one of these words. Let me enlarge the font. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, much better. So in this corrected sentence, we added the word and, right? Like this is just review. You know this, but it's helpful to remind yourselves. Do you remember does fanboys ring a bell? Yeah, for and nor, but, or, yet, so. If you have 2 sentences, sentence 1, sentence 2, combined with just a comma, you need a fanboys word. For and nor, but, or, yet, so. Also, not also, if you don't have a fanboys word, you could take out the comma and add a what to correct the sentence. Yeah, just what we just talked about, a semicolon. So we could add a semicolon here, boom, the sentence is correct. But without the semicolon, if we only have a comma, We have a run-on sentence. Now the SAT test writers are tricky. They don't have like a whole question dedicated to run-on sentences. Which one is a run-on? They don't do that. Instead, what they do is they will have 4 answers. 2 of them, they're kind of obviously wrong. The other 2 are close to right. One of them is right. The other one would be right, except it creates a run-on. And if you can identify the one that creates a run-on, you can figure out, oh, the other one is the correct sentence. I mean, a good 10%. There's an imbalance. They have too many questions related to run-ons and fragments, but you just need to be able to identify run-ons. We'll practice them when we get to section 2 of the grammar test, which is what we do today. Here's a rule. You need to know this. You need to know this. When you see a comma plus a pronoun, that's usually a run-on. Max gave the flowers to Diane, comma, she thought they were beautiful. Put whatever sample sentence you want. I don't care. But just know when you have a comma plus a pronoun, usually, not always, but usually you have a run-on, and that's an incorrect sentence. All right, there's one sentence. I'm not going to grab a desk from Mr. Kennedy's room. There's one exception regarding the comma rule. In this sentence, we only have one subject. Therefore, we do not have 2 complete sentences. It's one sentence because we have one subject. London is a very old city, but has many modern buildings. One subject. Okay, we have a compound verb, but not a compound sentence. So the comma in this case is unnecessary. You'll get one of these questions, if that. They don't come up often. The run-on sentence questions do, though. Thank you, sir. And did you need a book?
Yes, I did.
There you go.
Oh, my old 2018 book.
Yeah, you just set it here when you get it. All right, here's a little rule that shows up. Take the place of commas. London, you could say comma here, right? You don't have to write every word that's up on the screen. Just write the general rule, dashes can take the place of commas. London, comma or dash, which is a very old city, comma or dash, has many new buildings. What you need to know is if you start with a dash, you need to end with a dash. If you start with a comma, you need to end with a comma. That's what the SAT test writers are trying to figure out. They are trying to test you on. Do you know that if you start with the dash, you should end with it? Here's my go-to example sentence. It's about my family back home. Anya, comma, Luke, comma, and Nadia, comma, my family, comma, went to, I don't know, dinner. Now here's the thing. It's a perfectly valid sentence. It's technically correct from a grammatical perspective, but aren't there a lot of commas? 4 in a row, they're confusing, they throw the reader off. So what the writers of English decided was to make sentences read a bit more coherently. You have the option of taking out 2 commas and replacing them with dashes. And in this case, the dashes help the sentence make sense. The dash sets off the appositive, my family, that replaces Anya, Luke, and Nadia. What the test writers want to know is Do you know enough to correct this? This is wrong because we need a dash here. We don't need a comma. We started with a dash, so we need to end with a dash. Yeah, let's skip that. Let's go on here. Very useful rule. Shorter is better. Put the word concise on your page. C-O-N-C-I-S-E. C-O-N-C-I-S-E. Concise. And beside it, write, I don't know the dictionary definition. What does it mean? Short and to the point. Yeah. Concise. Short and to the point. If you know this, it'll help you answer probably 4 of the questions, which is about 10% of the section 2 questions. So if you have 4 answers and they all mean the same, but one of them is shorter, the shorter answer is the right answer. That's it. In English, well, in speaking and writing, if you can communicate an idea with fewer words, you should do so. You need to be concise. So if there are 4 answers and all of them are correct from a content perspective, then one of them is going to be shorter than the others, and that one's ultimately the correct answer. So here we go. You have this example sentence. The construction of the Great Wall of China was an enormous undertaking that occurred on a very large scale and required over 3,000 workers. Just using my rule, even before you read the answers, you can probably spitball it and guess which one is the correct answer. What do you say? D, right? It's the shortest answer. Now let's look a little more closely. An enormous undertaking that occurred on a very large scale. That would be A. Aren't enormous undertakings things that occurred on a large scale? Aren't you repeating yourself? Okay, A is out. An enormously huge undertaking on a large scale still repeats itself. An enormous undertaking which occurred on a very still repeats itself. It's just an enormous undertaking. That's all it is. Concise is best. This comes up sometime, probably like in 2 questions. So what's that, 5% of the section 2 test? Parallelism matters. If you have 3 items in a row, they need to be in the same form. So here, Pamela Meyer has collaborated with a team of researchers to survey and analyze existing research online from academics, meaning academic people, law enforcement officers, and working as psychologists. So here we have a noun, academics, those are people. We have officers, those are people. Working as psychologists is a gerund, it's not people. Working is not people. So instead, to maintain the parallelism, you just need to say psychologist, academics, law enforcement officers, and psychologists. Noun, noun, noun. Yeah, I have enough time for this example. I'm trying not to say names, so I'm just going to point at folks. Can I pick on you? Can I pick on you? Okay, so she likes, and like, what's like a hobby, right? Like reading. What else? Cooking and sleeping. And to sleep, right? So she likes reading, cooking, and to sleep. It's a Sesame Street moment. One of these is not like the other 2, right? We have an ing word, and do you remember 2 plus a verb? Do you remember what we call that? Yeah, it's an infinitive. So if we're going to have this list, we either have to make them all ing words or we have to make them all infinitives. That's parallelism. This is a super simple version of the question. You just get more complex versions of this for parallelism. I'm almost finished. Ooh. Yes. So we're going to split up like we did yesterday, right? Today, when you're with me, we're going to use these grammar principles to practice section 2. Tuesday, we practiced section 1. Today, we practice section 2. When you meet with me, remind me to talk to you about colons, the difference between colons and semicolons, like how you use them. We're just running out of time. I got to turn some folks loose. But remind me to talk about colons. Now, before I let you go, so keep this in mind. For the weekend, I recommend you study 1 hour outside of class for every hour you study in class. I know that's ambitious, but it's the beginning of the semester. You don't have any major projects yet. I hope. I mean, maybe you do. But you may not have major projects. It's a good time to study. Even if you studied for half an hour for every hour you're in class, you're going to help yourself tremendously. Tremendously. You can study Khan Academy. You can study with your book. It doesn't matter. All right. Let's split up. Those with this goal score, stay with me. Higher goal score, go up to Ms. Robeson. And those listening in on at home, we're